Well, now that there's just us, would you please tell me all your names again and how old you are?
I'm Liesel. I'm 16 years old, and I don't need a governess.
Hi, I'm Charmian Carr. I played Liesel, who was 16 going on 17, but I wasn't. I was 21 going on 22. Today I'm an interior designer. I have 2 daughters, 2 son-in-laws, and a 6-year-old granddaughter and a 3-year-old grandson.
I'm Friedrich. I'm 14. I'm impossible.
Really? Who told you that, Friedrich?
Fräulein Josephine, 4 governesses ago.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Hammond. I played Friedrich in The Sound of Music. And I was 13, and I turned 14 then. I live in Australia now, and I'm a screenwriter and still an actor.
I'm Brigitte.
You didn't tell me how old you are, Louisa.
I'm Heather Menzies, and I played Louisa von Trapp in The Sound of Music. And I was actually 14 years old at the time, playing 13, playing a younger version of myself. And I live in Los Angeles and have 3 children, 2 of whom are married, with a one-year-old little granddaughter and a 2-month-old little granddaughter. And I also have a 7-year-old. Angela and I have a production company, and I also run a foundation for cancer research.
I'm Brigitte. She's Louisa. She's 13 years old, and you're smart. I'm 10, and I think your dress is the ugliest one I ever saw.
Brigitte, you shouldn't say that.
I'm Angela Cartwright. I played Brigitte von Trapp. I was 11 and I turned 12 while we were making the film. I live in Los Angeles. I have 2 children, Becca and Jesse, and a husband. And I am an art photographer, an artist photographer. I hand paint photographs, and I curate at a gallery called the Studio Gallery. And I also am a producer with my friend Heather. We have our production company and work on many projects.
Don't you think it's ugly?
Of course. But Fräulein Hilda's was ugliest. I'm Kurt. I'm 11. I'm incorrigible.
Congratulations.
What's incorrigible?
I'm Dwayne Chase. I played Kurt. I was also 13. I had a lot of 13-year-olds, didn't we? And I live now in Seattle with my wife, Petra, and 3 rescued cats, and I'm currently a software engineer.
I'm Marta, and I'm going to be 7 on Tuesday, and I'd like a pink parasol.
Well, pink's my favorite color, too.
I'm Debbie Turner, and I was 7 years old when I played Marta von Trapp in The Sound of Music. I'm currently a floral designer in the Minneapolis area, but I also design in Los Angeles, Newport Beach area, as well as Park City, Utah. And I have 4 daughters, and I just celebrated my 25th anniversary with my husband, Rick.
Yes, you're Gretel. And you're 5 years old? My, you're practically a lady.
I'm Kim Karath. I played Gretel von Trapp in The Sound of Music when I was 5 years old, a long time ago. And I continued to act throughout the years and off and on, and took time off to raise my son, and now I'm resuming my acting career again.
I remember practicing going down that plywood thing of stairs for the march down. The first time we marched down to the whistle, to the bosun's pipe. And we used to have to practice that over and over. Some of us more than others with the uncoordination of a 14-year-old. But
Yes, but on the first day, I wasn't there, remember?
no, we had,
You had a good cast.
we had several Liesels. She was in like 5 minutes before they said, roll camera.
Because my first day was, you were all there lined up, and I think you said, we finally got Liesel or something like that.
How many days into it
Over
was
2
that?
weeks.
Really?
We've been rehearsing over 2 weeks.
I remember when we were rehearsing my favorite things, the sort of a little ballet with the pillow fight where it was like, first throw the pillow to this person, then throw the pillow to that person.
Yeah.
And it was like every day we'd rehearse it, there's the moment when Liesel comes out of the bathroom because she's soaked her dress, and I'm supposed to turn and throw the pillow to Liesel. And it's like each day, it's a different Liesel.
I know.
Because with each girl they were auditioning.
Yeah.
Well, everybody must have been there before me, because I remember coming into the stage, sitting in the corner with you, maybe?
Maybe.
And maybe Kimmy, and Bob Wise came over to me and just looked at me and said, would you like to go to Austria? And I knew I'd gotten the job. And I was so, of course, flabbergasted at the time. I just said, well, of course, you don't have to pay me. And that was,
You're hired.
that was my smart move.
Took you at your word.
I remember, so it's your fault. The day of the screen test, I don't know if you were...
Well, I thought I was going to have a screen test
He
because...
had narrowed it down to 2 sets of families.
Yeah.
And he lined 14 people up and took one out of one line and put it in the other line and stood back and looked at everybody, and then took one person out of and.
Do you remember that?
Do you remember that? And they
No,
put
I
me
know.
next to Nikki, and I was about 3 inches taller at the time than he was, and I thought, "There's no way.
No way.
I'm out. There's no way. I'm not going to get this. I'm too tall."
Yeah, and I'd been skiing, and I'd fallen
had a
down.
broken
I had a
arm.
broken arm, and I'd knocked out my front teeth. And that afternoon, I got a telegram from William Morris saying, "Be in New York for an audition for The Sound of Music." And I remember going in, and there were like 400 kids who were all perfect.
Yeah.
You know, they were perfect dancers and perfect singers, and they all looked exactly like Hitler Youth. You know, and I had no teeth, couldn't sing, couldn't dance, still can't.
Raccoon eyes.
But thank God he wanted people who could act a little.
He wanted real type
Yeah.
people. He didn't want cutout characters.
Yeah.
I mean, the Von Trapps had always been cast in plays and stuff as completely blonde and just, you know, perfect height.
Stereotypical.
And I love that about
Yeah.
Robert Wise, that he kind
I do
of
too.
saw a variety of, you know, making us more real. I
But
think
you
that's
know,
what people
yet there was a
really,
really familial look because we don't know what his wife looked like.
That's right.
And, you know, we're sort of a blend of.
But he had darker hair, so I think he thought it might have been a little unnatural for
all of us
Elvis
to be-
blonde,
just to be
and he had
blonde.
darker
They tried
hair.
to make you blonde.
I
remember
I
that.
tested as Louisa in a blonde wig.
You did?
And yes, I
I remember
did.
that day.
And I looked just dreadful. So thank God he decided to make me Brigitte, because then you would never be
I
Louisa.
wouldn't be here.
We'd have another Brigitte.
With Chris having dark brown hair, it helped because it meant half the kids could easily have dark hair.
But they certainly
you
tried to make
were
you
too.
blonde.
Except me.
Except you were
made you
blonde.
blonde.
They made you blonde. That's
Well,
right.
I think they just decided they needed one more blonde, and
Yeah.
it was the night before we shot our very first scene, which was My Favorite Things,
That was in the bedroom, right?
in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And
Was that
so,
the first scene? That was the first scene we shot?
Yeah.
So I had like overnight. I had from 6 o'clock that night until we had to be on the set the next morning to go from this color or the part of it that isn't gray.
It was,
Yes, it's a little darker there.
Yeah.
And I remember you walked in and your head was just blistered and
It was. Yeah.
red and raw.
Because they used to use Clorox in those
It was
days.
still pretty darned exciting that first day of filming.
That was pretty amazing.
Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things.
We had gotten to the end of the day, and everybody had got sent home except me. Bob still wanted to get a shot of me coming up from behind the bed, but everybody had gone home, and I was tired, and I was not coming up from behind the bed with a big smile on my face. And I didn't do it, and I didn't do it, and I didn't do it, and Bob was getting pretty short, I would imagine. And Ted McCord, remember Ted?
Yes.
I wish I remember what he did, but he did something behind the camera. I came up, one big grin,
Yeah.
shoot, print, do the whole thing. Bob just about turned around and kissed him. He was so happy. We were finally able to finish the day.
And it's such a cute smile.
Oh, I know.
I lost a tooth. Do you guys remember that?
During the
We're in the middle of that
Yeah.
particular one?
That's one of the bloopers, and I don't know if it's on the new cut of the movie, but when I smile at 1 second, there's a tooth. Next scene, there's not a tooth, and then it's there again.
Wow.
Tooth fairy came, everything. It was my first tooth that I ever lost. And I showed up the next day, didn't tell anybody, and we filmed it, and I'm smiling like this. We were singing, and 1 second the tooth is there, and then goes away, and then the tooth is gone, and then the next scene after that, the tooth is there again. So it was, you could tell which scenes were done the previous day.
Is this the favorite scene?
How many many days did that? How many days? It took 1 week for that one.
It took a week
Yeah.
to do that
Okay.
one scene.
But we all started losing teeth.
Well,
Yeah, those were teeth and height.
Oh,
were
height.
Teeth and
the-
height.
The issues.
Lips.
You know,
Some
the
shoes.
thing that amazed me now is that how could they predetermine who was going to grow at what rate?
Yeah.
Because we all look pretty
They
much
don't.
the same the entire. They were putting lifts on you to make you taller.
That's right.
And then taking them off as
Putting
you grew.
lifts on
They were
her.
putting
As
them
you
on you
grew.
and
Yeah.
putting them on you because we were all getting. You know, but you shot up about a foot.
No, six
Or
inches in
6
6 months. But just getting back to that first day with my favorite things, I don't actually think I've ever mentioned to anybody else, but I was completely awestruck by Julie because whereas like the crew didn't know who she was because she'd never done a movie that had been released yet in America, and I think Eleanor Parker was the only actor they'd ever heard of, the guys on our crew, but we had just come from London. And my mother had taken me to see My Fair Lady on the final night's performance that Julie Andrews and Rex Harrison had done it on stage. So like 3 years before, I had been sitting in the back row of this theatre in London and seen this woman give this unbelievable performance as Eliza Doolittle. And now I'm sitting on the end of the bed listening to this same person sing to me. I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe, that in 3 years I'd gone from that to that. So I had this personal little thing going on that I thought I better just keep this quiet, that I'm just absolutely petrified.
Especially in your pajamas.
Completely. So completely
Glad you did.
awestruck in the nicest possible way.
We noticed it in the pajamas, though.
Just,
We're a wicked
God.
group.
5 sisters for 40 years.
There is no slack with this crowd. There just is no slack.
I mean, when you think how hard she was working, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I never saw her lose her temper.
No,
I never saw her get irritated by a delay or a wait.
I never really saw her make a mistake.
Well, frankly, I mean, certainly
No.
not one that I could have seen. And I mean, what was she, 27?
She was 31. To be
Oh, well,
exact.
still, I mean,
Wasn't
She was
Emma
28.
Like 2?
she was 28.
Yeah.
Well, she was somewhere in there.
28? Oh, sorry.
28.
But, to carry that picture on her shoulders is amazing. I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment.
I just remember her taking us aside when we were doing the Do Re Mi sequence over by the fountains. And we all had those blankets over us because we were cold. And she sat down with the guitar and started singing to us as if we were on film, but it wasn't. I mean, it was just lovely how sweet that was. I will never forget that.
I think it so shows in the film how much we adored her.
Oh, I
mean,
think
we just
absolutely
really
the
just
rapport
loved
and the
her.
chemistry. I mean, I couldn't have looked more adoring, and it was absolutely genuine during my favorite things.
Oh, Chris.
What a wonderful.
Fantastic. And isn't it great when you see the movie now, how he just gets better each time you see it?
Yeah.
As you get older,
Handsomer and
Chris gets better.
Well,
I just hear his
absolutely.
voice and I
At the
know.
time, I was too young to have a crush on him, but now, oh my God,
well,
you know.
did you hear everybody the other night at the bowl?
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
both genders?
Yeah.
When Chris would come on the screen going,
Yes.
coming out with the white cross around his neck to
I
dance the Lendler.
Yeah.
Is that not the sexiest dance you've ever
Isn't
seen
that
in a
neat?
movie?
Isn't that
Julie
just
and
gorgeous?
Chris dancing that
Yeah.
dance.
Do allow me, will you?
I was afraid of him.
Were you really?
I liked
I was
Yeah,
too.
I was afraid of him.
Oh no, I liked him very much.
Yeah,
but
I did too.
he very wisely never tried to be like our best pal.
No.
Because I think he knew well enough as an actor that if these kids start feeling too relaxed around me off camera, they're not experienced enough actors to then act really frightened of me and really kind of distant when we're in front of a camera. So I think he just deliberately,
Oh, I know
as
that,
opposed
yeah.
to Julia, used to play games with
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
and teach us songs. And,
But I've got a couple of pictures of Chris and me sitting together in our canvas chair, sharing a laugh together, and he signed it on the back to the two laughing boys, your friend,
Oh, I love
Chris.
that. So nice.
And it's one of those things that you just remember because supposedly he, everybody says, oh, he didn't like working with kids. It's kind of like, kids and animals. But we survived that.
Did you guys have a language?
We did.
Gibberish or
Do you
what?
remember it?
Did he give
Of
say a
course.
sentence?
I did.
Oh, the guy
Of the
did
go
good.
to the garm of the gay. How the guy with the gar, you the go to the good of the gay.
oh, God, you're much better at it than me. And your mother always used to say, "Antula separakolo."
Exactly. Everyone learned a little bit of Greek on that shoot, didn't they?
Yeah. And what that means is sit down and shut up.
No.
Please.
It does not
Antula,
mean that.
please.
You know better
That's
Greek
what you
than
always
that.
did,
No,
don't
the
you?
intent
Well,
was that.
exactly. It meant please.
Please.
Antula, please.
As in, please stop.
As in,
doing
please
that.
behave yourself.
What is COP?
COP means please be quiet.
Okay, and what's separakolo?
Separakolo is please.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so
Antula.
And
please-
grigora means hurry.
Hurry.
Which was
That
the
was the
other
other
thing
one.
that she would
We
say.
made up a song. It was
Yeah.
Antula,
Antula,
Separakolo, separakolo.
Haven't sung that in 40 years.
That's right. COP. Oh, COP.
Because you guys are here a lot.
Do you remember the words to our version of Edelweiss with Robert Wise?
Oh,
All I remember is the last line was, "Bless my paycheck forever."
I do remember that.
I don't think I ever heard that one. I don't think I have either. We were too
have been
young.
when
They
you were
left-
switching shoes.
They excluded us from that.
Do you remember when the guy behind the desk at the hotel, we would get out of the car at the end of the day and race up to our room, screaming and yelling, and he would stand there pounding his finger at the, "We will not do this in this hotel."
That's right.
You know?
They didn't like us very much.
And we would
in
take
Salzburg.
there was a customer, they would put their shoes outside their door, and
Yeah.
somebody would come along and polish them in the middle of the night, you know, and so you'd open your door and you'd have, you know, freshly polished shoes. We would hit every single floor and take one.
Swap and switch the shoes.
One kid would be at the other end of the hall, and we would switch them, not just
The
you know,
shoes
ne-
got polished,
next
but
to
they
each
didn't
other.
end up in the right
They were
place.
and some were on another floor.
How many times did you guys do that?
Oh, almost every night.
We did think
Many
of something
times.
to do.
Same with the food orders.
Oh, that's right.
Oh.
The what?
Oh,
You know
for
how
breakfast?
people hang their
Oh, you
breakfast
can- oh,
orders
that's
on the
cool.
door?
Oh, we
You
moved those.
change them? Oh my gosh, you guys were bad.
It was innocent.
Was that?
Good heavens, what's this?
It's nothing, just some local urchins.
We were just talking about all the things that we did that we weren't probably supposed to do, and there was that one scene where we were all in the trees, and they had to let the traffic through every once in a while, and of course we had to stay in the trees, and during that time, I thought I was going to get thrown off the film because I managed to drill an acorn right down through the open sunroof of a Mercedes as it went by.
I
and
remember that.
it hit the dashboard and rattled back and forth across the thing. And this guy got to the end of the road and talked to somebody, and then somebody had to come back and talk to me. And I thought,
Oh, you
this
mean
is
not
it.
the open Mercedes that had Eleanor and Richard?
No,
Chris in
no. This was a modern Mercedes with a sunroof.
Just a person
and it was
driving.
and it was just target practice. It was an opportunity that couldn't be passed.
I remember being in those trees a really,
Really
long,
long
time.
time.
Is that the reason?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Now, am I the only one who actually is aware that there is a mistake of mine that's still in the film, and every time I see the film, I'm just sitting there thinking, please, dear God,
Which
don't
one
let
did
any
you
of
do?
you-
Let's hear it,
Mistakes.
because I don't know it.
I don't know if I'll
Good segue.
tell this, but, well, it's just, you know when
I'll
we're all...
tell one if
it's
you
in the
tell
do re- Okay. I hope the rest of you have one.
I've got one.
In the middle of the Do Re Mi montage, you know when we're in the carriage, the horse-drawn carriage, Reggie
Yeah.
Callis and Julie's going, me, so, and we're all supposed to... And like 3 times we were supposed to point to each other on our note, but the last time we weren't. And so the last time we do it, the only person who goes, la, is
Was you?
la. So every single time, I just close my eyes at that moment. in the
You know
movie.
what? I'm going to watch that next time.
Do, mi, so, re, fa, fa, la, ti, ti. Do, mi, so, re, fa, fa, la, ti.
Actually, this
She's
sounds
perfect. She
terrible,
doesn't
but
make
I don't
mistakes.
think I made a mistake. There is a funny shot, though.
okay,
And
great.
maybe
Well,
I did. Did I? No, see, I didn't. But there is a
She's
shot.
like Mary Poppins. She's practically perfect in every way.
Docious aliexballistic fragile calorupus. That's right. I say it backwards, and Julie taught me.
Docious aliexballistic fragicalirupus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a shot in the dinner scene that bugs me every time I see it.
The one with the pine cone.
The pine cone, and it's the last time that we're reprimanded.
Yeah.
And I did this weird thing with the chocolate cake. I kind of blinked twice and then I looked down. And it was just stupid.
Yeah, I know that.
It's just weird. It works.
I've
in
always
the
thought the
scene.
same thing.
How long will you be gone this time, Father?
I'm not sure, Gretel, not sure.
Please tell us, Heather. Did you make a mistake?
Yeah.
Maybe a minor
what?
mistake somewhere?
On the stairs in the Do Re Mi sequence.
In the park?
Completely tripped over my feet. And you know, I mean, they had done it perfectly how many times? And I remember distinctly thinking, as I'm making this mistake and I'm looking around trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be because I'm not where I'm supposed to be, that they'll never use this take. Because we had done it perfectly so many times before that. And, you know, lo and behold, every time I see this film now, I just go, oh, God.
It's on the stairs.
It's right on the stairs. Yeah.
We had to make
I'm
that.
supposed to
I
be
can't
lined
wait to
up with
see that,
Charmy, and I turn and I look and I'm not. You know, I'm on the wrong step, and you can't end it, you know, the so-do correctly unless you're on the correct step. The
But
whole
you know what
Are you
Heather
sure
told
you
me
were on the
today?
wrong step?
She thought you had made the mistake, and she was
yeah.
right.
But I did.
Did you?
She's young enough; she'll never know it was me that made the mistake.
I mean, you've been holding out this whole
me.
time. You've been holding out this whole time, and my entire life I thought that you know that it was me.
I never knew it bothered you. You never
It bothered her so much every time she sees it, she cringes.
All of you were meant to point at yourselves on that last note. I think I'm the only one who got
I
it
thought
right.
the same thing. They'll never use this take.
Yeah.
That was the only take I made a mistake.
Well, I'm going to look
and
very
I thought,
close.
well, now,
use this
now
take.
Then there's another
if you
mistake in
look
there, too.
now,
Yeah.
you look at me and see the mistake I
Okay,
made,
'cause I'm
and then
only looking
you'll
at
look
my
at you and see, oh, she's
She's the one that made the mistake.
She looks over it to the side because she's supposed to be on the hairs, and she goes, "Oh, I'm on the wrong step."
We were mirroring each other.
and she tried so hard to get on the right step.
And she's always blamed herself. This is wonderful that you guys can come to this place.
40 years. Amen. You know, and I'm the klutz. You know,
Family
thank you.
resolution
Thank
after
you.
40 years.
It took a long time.
The one that bothers me was pointed out in Forever Liesel.
Which is?
Plug, shameless plug. Which, the first scene when we're singing, so bad. In My Favorite Things.
Yes.
And I started mouthing the
that's
song.
right. You start mouthing
Because I
along
was
to
so
it.
into it, and we'd done it so many times. And I think the first several times we did it, I didn't do that. But the one take that he chose, I went,
You're singing along with
because I
Truett,
was just
yeah.
like really getting into it, and you know,
Singing the words you didn't know yet.
that I didn't know yet.
And she wasn't supposed to know yet.
I wasn't supposed to know yet. But yeah, that one haunts me.
When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad.
So how about the rowboat scene? I remember when we were standing there waiting to begin the shot where we're coming out of the lake, and I'm holding you, and Mr. Wise says, Heather, just, and I looked down and I was covered in vomit. It's covered in vomit.
I've never lived that story down.
You know, this poor child didn't know how to swim.
No.
And every time we fell out of that boat, she would sink to the bottom of the lake.
you
and they
guys,
had to-
I was caught the first time. It was the second time that
Really?
was really bad. No, the first time around, Julie caught me.
Yeah.
But she still felt, you know, she told me
backwards.
years later she felt really guilty for not catching me the second time, but she went off the wrong side,
yeah.
so she couldn't catch me.
Oh, Captain, you're home!
Well, I was kind of klutzy because I was, I'm sure you guys all remember some of my little near misses, including the lake, but do you remember when we were doing the scene where we were running by the water? It was one of the Do Re Mi scenes, and we were in those
Across the
horrible
bridge.
curtain costumes that I hated with such a passion. I can't even tell you, because I wore the ugly one. It was like the pantaloon kind of things. Oh, it was horrible. But anyway, I kept falling, and my falls are in the film.
Yep.
Trailing behind and falling, so.
But it's perfect.
It's adorable.
It fits.
It's completely adorable. Do you remember the very first time we saw a rough assembly of some of the footage over in Austria, where they took us into that little movie theater somewhere,
Tiny place.
and they had put together a rough cut of the Do Re Mi sequence, and we all just went,
Oh my God.
I think it was the first time that I
is
realized
the
that
movie
this
we're
is
in?
that this was so special.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful.
and we
So
weren't
beautiful.
allowed to see the rushes, so suddenly to see it up there and to see, and I think, I remember Ted McCord, our cameraman, even saying to me afterwards that it was after seeing that And he'd worked on a lot of great movies, but it was after seeing that that he thought, this is going to be something.
Well, it was like the first movie video.
Well, it was, in a way.
You know, who had done that before?
Yes.
Yes, and the
No, that's
planning.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
It really was the
Yeah.
first time they've ever done. Yeah.
It still gets a round of applause every time, in every movie theater.
But it's
every
so
time
impressive. I mean,
yeah.
really, when you look at it, all the different scenes, all the different places, the
Yes,
coordination
that's
of
what's so
everything.
interesting.
It is. It's so interesting.
Do you remember doing the graveyard scene? And the feeling of those shaking of those gates and how loud it was and how it echoed and how we were all like hiding. And it was kind of like, you know, when you play hide and seek and you go and you hide and then you like get really nervous because somebody's coming after you. And it was kind of that feeling for me, even though, you know, you could kind of trick yourself into like going, ooh, I'm really kind of scared.
Also, I think...
I mean, you know how the script turns out.
Yeah.
And it was quiet, and then to hear the...
I know.
And I remember also, because Julie and Christopher were playing it as though it was so deadly serious, and not that they were displaying fear, but they were giving out every possible message that this is life and death. And I can remember responding to that and thinking, my God, I don't want one tiny bit of that flashlight beam to touch, you know, one hair.
And I always thought that Julie in your group, I'm sorry, but we were in the other group, made too much noise when you went this way. I was like,
That's very funny. I thought that about your group.
Yeah.
I actually preferred our group because I was with Eliza Doolittle. You were with some unknown Canadian.
but he was quieter.
Yes. But since we were really with the star, we were entitled to make more noise.
Yeah, but what if they had heard you?
I knew this close-up was going to go in the picture because Julie was in it.
It's interesting because we were talking earlier about how this film is so multi-generational. And I think that most people have the exact same reaction today to, you know, me being in the film or whatever, that they did years and years ago.
It's amazing, isn't it, how it like breaks down any barrier between you and a stranger the minute they find out about Sound of Music. Suddenly, it's like they melt.
Give you the look like
You're not a stranger anymore. And suddenly you hear people's life stories and really deep, intimate experiences about their family life or where they were when they first saw the movie. And it's very emotional. It's just the barriers evaporate instantly.
There's also, I feel, there's kind of a responsibility to live up to that. I mean, they have such admiration for the movie, and they have such love that you kind of think, gee, I better never do anything in my life that, you know, I never want this person to open a newspaper and, you know, read something.
see you in handcuffs.
See me in handcuffs, yes.
That mugshot.
But seriously, I think that not in a bad way. No, it's not like, oh, well, you know, my life's been restricted by it, but I really do feel that. I think, God, you know, it's slightly daunting to have people for 40 years everywhere you are. You know, 2 days ago on the plane from Australia.
Somebody recognized you.
The entire crew of the plane, you know, either from seeing the name on the manifest, and then suddenly you're getting each one of their stories, and you think, this is just unbelievable that people still feel this need to connect to somebody from the film.
My heart wants to beat like the wings of the birds that rise from the lake to the trees, to the trees.
Obviously a stroke of genius on Bob Wise's part, but none of us knew at the time that, remember, he saved for the very last shot we had us singing The Sound of Music to Chris and Chris joining in. And I can remember Bob coming up just before the cameras rolled and said, okay, everybody, this is it. This is your very last shot in the movie.
I go to the hills when my heart is lonely. I know I will hear what I've heard before. My heart will be blessed with the sound of music.
So the tears, I mean, all those tears of hugging Chris and Julie and there, and I mean...
Oh, we were...
Is that why you cried so much?
Of course.
You know,
we were just absolutely...
everybody has always thought we were wonderful actors.
Yes.
It was a wrap for us after that.
That's right.
scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
We knew that when he said print,
There had to be an end.
the movie was over, which meant all this was over.
Yeah.
If only we'd known.
If only we'd known.
Yes, we wouldn't have been so sad. You wouldn't have.
It's weird because it's like everybody in the world wants to be in your home movie. You know, I mean, like what for us was a real memory, something we really did.
So Sound of Music is our home movie.
That's right. It is our home movie.
Well, that's cool.
Well, you show it to your kids, you show it to your, you know, you say, well,
Would you like to see my home movies?
that's right. It's like for everyone else to have a slide night, but you want to see what Uncle Nicky looked like at 13? But everybody does do that, you're right. They all want to.
But it hasn't defined any of us. Do you think?
That way.
No.
No.
No, but we are that way anyway. I think, yeah,
We're
it's true.
genuinely friends, and we all turned out okay, you know?
Yeah.
We've all had our little bumps in the road, maybe, and...
Much to the frustration of a lot of reporters.
It's true, but you know, don't you think that, I mean, I think about that a lot because it's one of those questions that we always get asked and people sort of want to know the dirt on and everything. And, you know, there is no dirt.
There's just no dirt.
And I do think a lot of that is to Robert Wise's credit in terms of his acumen in sort of feeling maybe it's a weird way to say it, but sort of our genuine wholesomeness or intactness or something.
Well, I've heard him say in interviews that, you know, what he wanted to do was construct a family. And I think
And he did.
I think he had an idea in his mind all along, you know, sort of almost a picture in his mind of who these people were, and he just kept looking until he found them, you know.
But it is amazing that over all of these years we are actually in touch quite a bit.
What's funny too is when we do see each other, it's kind of like we slip on an old shoe or something.
Well, you pick up where you left off.
I know, it's just so comfortable, and it's just cool.
Well.
It's neat.
And it's so nice, Nick, to have you here.
Well, it's...
You know, I miss having you
Closer
at certain
by.
things. Yeah, you're just not
You are my best friends in the world. I mean, you are.